I fell in love with a doctor. He has fair skin, beautiful looks, a slim waist and long legs. Apart from being a man and being unable to give birth to a baby for me, there are no other disadvantages. I chased it with all my might, not picking the stars but the moon, and called it my darling every day. But I spent a year and still couldn't chew on this delicious bone. I was so depressed that I went on a blind date under my dad's instructions. But Arthur dragged me from the hotel to his house and pressed me on his lap and kissed me hard until I cried. He said in a deep voice, "You said you wanted to sleep with me because you were greedy for my body. Let's try, huh?" 01. Abdominal cramps, radiating to the back. No headache or chest tightness. Do you have any other discomfort? I quickly pressed my abdomen and cried out in pain. My stomach hurts. Dr. Arthur. Feel it and see if I have cancer or something. The doctor in gold-rimmed glasses glanced at me expressionlessly. You just pressed the left lower abdomen. I silently moved my hand from the upper right abdomen to the lower left abdomen. Based on the symptoms you described, the possibility of kidney stones is relatively high. I suggest you go to the internal medicine department for a CT scan. I will cancel your appointment first. I quickly sat up and held the doctor's hand. Come on, Dr. Arthur, can't you help me? Arthur closed his eyes, then very politely stroked my paw and spoke with a smile. Marcus, I'm in the psychology department. With a bang, I was ruthlessly kicked out of the department. I looked at the closed door and smiled, tilting the roof of my mouth. TSK, even the way he chases people away looks so good. Hey Marcus, you're here again. If I remember correctly, this is your 30th appointment with Dr. Arthur, right? The young nurse Clara passed by and saw me being turned away, so she greeted me jokingly. I leaned against the wall with my arms folded in a very pretentious manner and raised my eyebrows. Wrong. For the 32nd time, Clara gave a thumbs up. Awesome. Last time it was epilepsy, and the one before that was rabies. What other symptoms did you make up this time? I waved my hand at her unhappily. Go away. Go and do your thing. Clara made a face, gestured to cheer her up, and ran away. I smiled and shook my head, then took out my phone and opened Arthur's chat box. Dr. Arthur, to thank you for taking the trouble to treat me, I ordered seafood porridge and old duck soup from Guangji restaurant for you at noon. It will be delivered in half an hour. Remember to eat it. I typed the last tilde without any shame, said hello to the girls at the nurse's station, and left the hospital feeling good about myself. At night, I climbed into bed with a lollipop in my mouth and checked my phone, only to find that Clara had taken a photo of herself and the luxurious lunch I ordered for Arthur and posted it on WeChat Moments. Dr. Arthur is in a meeting and has no time to eat. Thanks for feeding me. With a crunch, I bit the lollipop in my mouth into pieces. 02. I liked Arthur the first time I saw him. In the past, I always thought that what other stupid men said about love at first sight was bullshit. It was nothing more than seeing someone with big breasts and a nice butt and being driven by lust. But after I saw Arthur bathed in the sunshine, I could never forget it. This is the first time in my 27 years of life that I feel my heart pounding. So over the past year, I've been teasing Arthur whenever I can. This is a tough nut to crack. Took me half a year to get WeChat, and now I'm still at the stage of inviting people to dinner. Let alone getting the person I haven't even held their hand. I chewed the candy in frustration and threw myself into the quilt. Near noon the next day, I went to Guangji restaurant in person. Hey, what brings Marcus here? Or are we going to the private room as usual? The boss came over with a smile. I waved my hand. No, just give me the most expensive seafood porridge and a bowl of fish soup. Put it in a thermos bag and I'll take it away. Package. The boss scratched his head sheepishly. Oh, Marcus, it's just a small matter. You can just give us a call and we will definitely deliver it to your door. There's no need to bother you to come in person. I sighed in mock manner and slammed the back of my right hand into the palm of my left hand. You don't know, my baby is very spoiled. He won't eat the food I didn't bring. Yesterday, he got mad at me and gave all the food I ordered to others. Alas, what can I do? I just spoil him. The boss slapped his thigh in understanding. So it's for the young lady. Wait, I'll ask the kitchen to hurry up and make it. Half an hour later, with one hand in my pocket and the other holding my lunch bag, I hummed a song as I walked upstairs to find my baby. But before anyone could see it, the road was blocked by a large group of people. Oh, excuse me, please make way, please make way. I finally squeezed to the front, only to find a middle-aged man holding a knife against a girl. Arthur stood in front of all the medical staff and told him to calm down. TSK, why are there still medical disputes these days? Could I put my baby in danger? That definitely can't happen. So I quietly pushed everyone away, rushed to the side of the gangster, snatched the knife, pulled the little girl out and kicked the gangster hard. With a few screams, the gangster was kicked out, and the security personnel who were on high alert immediately went over and controlled him. Yoshi, done. Marcus. I was startled when my full name was suddenly called. Arthur strode over to me, scowled, and took my arm. He had just been stabbed by the gangster and blood was still oozing from his arm. Are you going to die? Are you brainless? Don't you know how dangerous it is? Oh, the little white rabbit is anxious because he is worried about me. There is a way. I lowered my eyelashes and pursed my lips. You were mean to me, and I was hurt at the cost of myself, and you still mean to me. I shamelessly pretended to be pitiful. Arthur frowned and glared at me. I dare not be mean to you, you are very capable. He let go of my hand and turned away. I stood there quietly counting the seconds. Sure enough, after walking a few steps, he turned back, took me to the treatment room with a sullen face and without saying a word. 03. Hiss. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Although Arthur is a psychiatrist, he is also quick and ruthless in treating wounds. As I howled, Arthur finished the stitches neatly. He kept a sullen face and didn't say a word to me. Obviously, he's still angry. A good man will admit his mistake first, no matter if he has done anything wrong or not, as long as his girlfriend is angry. I put my hand on the back of his hand as he sorted out medical supplies and patted it. The timing and strength were just right, between soothing and being a hooligan. I was wrong. I won't be so reckless next time. Please don't ignore me. Okay? Arthur finally gave me a not-so-friendly look. After he quickly packed up his things, he returned to his previous gentle expression towards everyone, but his voice remained light. Marcus, don't let the wound get wet. Remember to come over to change the dressing in the next few days. Here's the payment slip. Scan the code and pay the fee, then you can leave. No, I'm here to bring you some porridge. My porridge. Shit, where's my porridge? I ran to the lobby and saw the cleaning man wiping up the last of the residue on the floor. In the trash can nearby was the Guangji restaurant insulation bag that I had protected all the way. I must have not checked the almanac before going out today. Everything is really unlucky. 04. Clara, don't blame me for not reminding you. There is no future in liking me. I propped my head up with one hand, my eyes empty. I, your brother, will only spend my life with Dr. Arthur, and I will never fall in love with anyone else. Clara rolled her eyes silently after applying the medicine to me. Wake up. You've been put on the blacklist of mates by all the female colleagues in our department. Who would be so stupid as to like you? I slumped over the table in frustration, banging my head against it in confusion. Then why didn't Arthur come to apply medicine to me after that day? I haven't seen my sweetheart for 5 days. Did you really take advantage of me? Clara snorted in annoyance and put away all the medicines one by one. Our Dr. Arthur is very busy. Do you think everyone is as idle as you? Besides, Dr. Arthur has so many suitors, both men and women. You still have to wait in line. I reached out and flicked Clara on the head, accidentally pulling the wound and causing me to scream in pain. Can those slutty girls out there compare to me? Are they as handsome as me? Are they as rich as me? Are they as nice to your Dr. Arthur as I am? You are just being treacherous. You drank the porridge I gave to Arthur, and I haven't even settled the score with you yet. Clara made a face, and after finishing her work, she put her hands on her chin, looking gossipy. Hey, seriously, you have good looks and good conditions, so you must have no shortage of people around you. What do you like about our Dr. Arthur? His looks, his figure. I held up a finger and shook it in front of her face. Superficial. Am I the kind of person who only looks at appearance? It must be his noble character and clear and bright qualities that attracted me. But then again, I'm also attracted to your Dr. Arthur's body. If I could sleep with him, I'd do anything to him. Although I have no experience, I'm very gentle with women. So the experience will definitely be good. He's sure to like it. Tisk, what's with that expression on your face? Are you making fun of me for being a virgin? What's wrong with being a virgin? It means I'm a virgin. I'm destined to only love you, Dr. Arthur, in this life. Clara's hints were fruitless, and she covered her face with her hands in grief, burying herself like an ostrich. It was only then that I felt something was subtly wrong. I'm gonna die, right? I turned my head stiffly and saw Arthur standing at the door with his hands in his pockets, his face expressionless. We just stared at each other in silence for 5 or 6 seconds. It seems that Marcus's wounds have healed well, and he is in good spirits. He doesn't need to come again tomorrow. Arthur turned and left, slamming the door behind him. Comrade Clara laughed like a goose beside her. I have never hated my own clumsiness so much. The impression I have accumulated over the past year might be completely ruined, and I might even be labeled a pervert. At this moment, I wanted to hang myself in the hospital. 05. After I got home and finished a bunch of work at the company, I crossed my legs on the sofa and searched on my tablet the top 10 gifts that doctors like best. I had to do something to save my precarious image. Sending flowers is not an option. Arthur is not a delicate girl. It is too vulgar. Giving expensive things is not a good idea either, because Arthur will see that money is dirt and think I am showing off my wealth. Banner? Chasing someone and giving them a banner is stupid no matter how you look at it. Pen? Well, this one is pretty good, it's cultural. I have to spend some time to order a low-key, luxurious, and meaningful personal model. Just as I was thinking about it, a loud thunder exploded outside. The weather seems to have reached menopause. It was sunny in the morning, but now it is about to rain heavily. Suddenly, an idea flashed in my mind. Arthur must not have brought an umbrella. I immediately jumped up from the sofa at the speed of light, went to the bedroom, dug out a long black coat from a pile of clothes, put it on, grabbed an umbrella and went out. When I drove to the hospital, it was just their time to get off work. After waiting for less than 10 minutes, I saw Arthur. Hey, here. Before I could finish my words, Arthur pulled out an umbrella from his bag and opened it. My waving arms froze in the air. What a coincidence. Dr. Arthur also brought an umbrella. He nodded. The weather forecast said it would rain today. I was embarrassed. Well, it was a waste of time. Arthur glanced me up and down, frowning slightly. Why did you come here at this hour? Are you feeling unwell? I sighed with a sad face. I came to pick up my little white rabbit and took him home. I was afraid he would get wet. But I just found out that he is very self-sufficient and doesn't need my help at all. After listening to me, Arthur looked at me as if I were an idiot and hesitated to speak several times. I looked around and walked up to a mother who was hiding from the rain with her child, holding an umbrella. I bent over and handed the umbrella to her very gentlemanly, then accepted their thanks in a cool manner and walked back to Arthur with my hands in my pockets. Dr. Arthur, I don't have an umbrella to go home. Can you give me a ride? Arthur. Even though his expression looked indescribable, I still smiled and waited for his reply. After a while, his umbrella tilted and covered me. Let's go, etc. I called out to Arthur, who was about to step into the rain, and he looked at me with a little confusion. I quickly took off my coat, put it forcefully on him, held down his hands as he tried to push me away, and snatched the umbrella from his hand. The temperature has dropped, it's raining and it's humid, and I don't know how to wear more clothes. What should I do if I catch a cold? Arthur looked stunned for a moment, his mouth slightly open without saying anything. I took the opportunity to put my arm around his and half-hugged him as we walked into the romantic rain. 06. I had planned it all out in my mind. When we were downstairs, I would invite him to my house to express my gratitude and let him taste the wine I had collected for many years. When the atmosphere was right, I would confess my love to him and maybe he would get a few kisses and hugs. It would be best to let him stay overnight at your home. If he doesn't object, then you can make it a done deal and formally confirm the relationship. Then bring him home during the Chinese New Year in 2 months. It couldn't be a smoother process than this. I felt secretly happy. Soon, the car stopped downstairs of the house. I unbuckled my seatbelt and smiled. Thank you so much, Dr. Arthur. Otherwise, it's getting late, you should go back. How about you come to my house? It's still early, and I have a treasure. Arthur shook his head. No, I still have some papers to read. Well, all stories die at the beginning. I continued to ask, do you have time tomorrow night? I'll treat you to dinner. Arthur's fingertips curled slightly around the steering wheel. I waited anxiously for his answer, but after a while I got a busy reply. I immediately deflated, and my head and shoulders drooped. This little white rabbit was really hard to chew. Not only did I not chew off many of its fur, but it also broke a lot of its teeth. But not long after, I actually heard Arthur's low explanation. Tomorrow, our department will have a dinner party. I looked up suddenly, but he immediately looked away, but I still caught the unknown emotion that was about to disappear at the corner of his eyes. My mood, which had just hit rock bottom, instantly soared to the sky again. Oh, there's a chance. There must be drinking at dinner parties, and there must be sex after drinking. Bah, the truth comes out after drinking. I will pick him up at the appointed time tomorrow, send him home, and then ask him how he feels about me. If he feels good about me, I will take him down while he is drunk, and then say that he was the one who took the initiative. Wouldn't that be more logical? I was visibly happy and said goodnight to Arthur with a sly smile. I won't take your coat. Just wear it and I'll come get it when I have time. I closed the car door happily, watched the car drive away from the rain, and then turned around and went home. 07. The next night, I checked the time for the 20th time and opened the chat box with Clara for the 30th time. It was the same message I sent 5 minutes ago. Is it almost finished? What's the progress? This damn girl hasn't replied to my message in such a long time. Could she have gotten drunk and forgotten about me? Tisk, it's better for me to go over and wait. Since Clara couldn't be relied upon, I immediately took my car keys and prepared to go out. I just received her message when I was putting on my shoes. It's almost over. Dr. Arthur is almost done too. Come quickly. I curled my lips and typed quickly. Give him 2 more glasses and make him 8/10 drunk. I hummed a little tune and rushed to their dinner place as quickly as possible. When I got out of the car, I sprayed some cologne twice and then walked into the hotel lobby with confidence. Oh, what a coincidence, you guys are having dinner here. I greeted everyone with a look of surprise. I've been to Arthur's department so many times that I've become familiar with everyone there. Everyone at the table was drunk. Clara also fell backwards on her chair. The few who were still conscious waved to me. I found Arthur lying on the table in the corner, his head resting on his elbows, his hazy and watery eyes looking at me through the glass. At that moment, the world was silent, and except for him, the sky and the earth were colorless. A drunk Arthur was really destructive to me. I called the waiter to pay the bill, asked them to order more for what they hadn't eaten enough, and put it all on my account. Then, I helped Arthur leave amid a bunch of compliments about how Marcus is awesome. Drunk Arthur was surprisingly obedient. He did everything in a dull manner and did not resist. I helped him into the passenger seat, fastened his seat belt for him, and touched him thoroughly with my little hands. I couldn't help but gently pinch the side of his face. Finally, I caught you. 08. Arthur was so drunk that he fell asleep. I finally woke him up and asked for his home address. I then searched all over his body and finally found the house key. Arthur looked thin, but maybe it was because he was tall, but he was ridiculously heavy. By the time I half carried and half supported him to the bed, he was half dead. Baby, you're too heavy. Your husband is exhausted. I sat down on the ground, gasping for breath. When my strength had almost recovered, I made a secret decision in my heart. I would go to the gym to get a Supreme VIP card tomorrow. I can't allow myself to be unable to hold my darling. It's so embarrassing. I climbed up with the help of my legs, took off Arthur's shoes, covered him with the quilt, and got a towel with hot water to wipe his face and neck. After everything was done, I sat by the bed and looked at his sleeping face quietly. Arthur has a very special aura. Just looking at him can calm one's heart. Of course, his appearance is also very good, with deep eye sockets, and he looks pleasing to the eye even with his eyes closed. Someone plucked the string in my heart, neither lightly nor heavily. According to my previous ideas, I should do something bad now. But when it really came to this, I felt like I had lost all my courage and became such a coward. If I really offended him, would he be angry? What if he never talks to me again? What if he hates me? But a kiss should be okay. Anyway, he is asleep now and won't be able to find out. I was torn between my conscience and my desires, but the atmosphere was so good that I finally succumbed to it. I leaned down cautiously and kissed Arthur's lips very slowly, lightly, and almost devoutly. I separated from him as soon as I touched him, but when I separated, I was so bold that I stretched out my tongue and gently licked the gap between his lips. But when he looked up, he met Arthur's open eyes. Damn it, I was caught red-handed. I was in a state of panic, racking my brains to think of what to say. But the next moment, Arthur grabbed the back of my head, turned over and pressed me under him, and kissed me almost roughly. Not sober yet? I was so happy that I hugged his back, closed my eyes and responded awkwardly. But soon, I couldn't stand it anymore. Arthur kissed me too fiercely. I couldn't breathe, especially his hands were twisting my waist, which made me feel itchy and numb. I had no choice but to bite his lower lip hard and push him away a little, breathing heavily. Baby, you're so hot. Let me take a break. But when I came to my senses and looked up, I met a pair of sober eyes without any drunkenness. 09. Wasn't woken up by my bite? The original ambiguous atmosphere suddenly faded away and gradually turned into an unspeakable silence. I swallowed unconsciously, then shamelessly brought out the speech I had prepared long ago. You took the initiative. In my imagination, Arthur should be extremely embarrassed now, with a hint of guilt and self-blame. I took the opportunity to make a strong confession and made him reluctantly agree to be with me. But Arthur didn't react at all. He just got off me without saying a word, walked barefoot to the single sofa beside the bed, closed his eyes and rubbed his eyebrows. He looked very uncomfortable. I stood up and looked at him for a while, and no one spoke again. After a while, I got out of bed, picked up the quilted sandals beside the bed, walked to him, squatted down and stuffed his cold feet into them. Arthur finally spoke quietly, but he didn't seem to know what to say. I sat in this position on the floor, cross-legged, with my back against the mattress, and looked at him with my chin slightly raised. Arthur, seriously, if you promise me, I will buy a house and move to a place near your hospital. I saw a flat in Green Court last week, which is only 10 minutes away from your hospital. From now on, I will make breakfast for you before you go to work every day, and pick you up after get off work. We can also get a dog, either an Alaskan or a Border Collie. We can hold hands and take it for a walk at night. If it makes a mistake, we can give it a good beating. We can discuss it during the Chinese New Year. We can go to your house or mine. I have a piece of excellent tea cake that can be used as a gift. If you think it's not enough, I have other things. I pulled his hand from his knees and held it in my palm, rubbing it again and again, providing a source of heat for his cold skin. I really have never loved someone so much, never before and never again in the future. When I said this, Arthur just stared at me, his long eyelashes blocking the light, and the emotions in his eyes were so strong that I could hardly see through them. I looked into his eyes, waiting patiently for his reply, and even my breathing slowed down unconsciously. I don't know how long it was before Arthur closed his eyes and pulled his hand away from mine. You go now. He almost spoke in a low voice. I lowered my eyes and dug my fingernails into my palms. After a while, I let out a breath, calmed down my emotions and slowly stood up. I'm sorry, I talked too much today. I walked to his kitchen, poured a cup of warm water, and happened to find a jar of honey in the refrigerator. I scooped out a spoonful of honey and put it in the warm water and stirred it slowly. The whole room was very quiet, with only the crisp clinking sounds of spoons and glasses. I put the honey water on the bedside table. It's for hangover relief. Drink a little and you won't feel too bad. Then he picked up the coat he had just thrown away, walked out straight, and closed the door quietly. 10. When I got home, I found an uninvited guest at home. My father, whom I hadn't seen for half a year. I don't do my work all day. I just hang out outside. Still the same as before. He starts scolding me as soon as he opens his mouth. When people are uncomfortable, they don't want to talk to others. I changed my shoes, ignored the figure on the sofa, and walked towards the room without looking back. I have an appointment with my friend's granddaughter tomorrow. You two can meet at the restaurant tomorrow night. Pack up. I've sent you my WeChat. No. You have to go even if you don't want to. It's ridiculous to chase a man every day. You can just have fun, but don't let it interfere with your work. I paused, and veins bulged on the back of my hand holding the door handle. That girl's name is Daisy. She just graduated from graduate school. You? His name is Arthur. I turned around and interrupted him. I'm not just playing around. He's my business. I won't talk to anyone else except him. I've made it clear here. I will definitely be with him. If you agree, then we'll have a son for nothing. If you don't agree, then we'll have raised our only son in vain. You are a businessman. You should know how to choose. I said these words, went into the room and slammed the door. A moment later, there was a curse from outside the door, and then the door was slammed with a deafening noise. I lay dead on the bed, feeling more frustrated than ever before. All the events of the evening flashed before my eyes. I have been surrounded by people since I was a child. There have always been beautiful women around me. After I grew up, there were many men and women who threw themselves at me. But none of them had Arthur's picturesque features. Ever since I met him, my heart has been in turmoil. From then on, whenever I woke up in the middle of the night, the tall figure of that person lingered in my mind. I've never cared so much about someone. He comes to ask about his health at a fixed time every day and visits his department more frequently than he visits his home. I can also feel that he is not completely uninterested in me. I still remember the uncontrollable worry on his face when he was injured. That's subconscious concern. I don't know what he was worried about. After I opened my heart and expressed my love so nakedly, he still told me to go in a deep voice. How cruel. But there is always that one person in this world, no matter how you push or reject him, you can never let go of him or her, and you can never bear to give him or her up. Can't bear to give up, can't bear to leave, want to stay with him even if it means being shameless. I pulled a pillow over my face, thrashed the bed with my limbs to vent my anger, and kicked the quilt to the ground. After a good tantrum, the depressed mood in my chest finally dissipated a little. I let out a long breath. Alas, what can I do? I will just continue to pursue the person I like tomorrow. But before catching up, he has to deal with the mess that the bastard father made for his son. I took out my phone, ready to add the girl, tell her that I had someone I liked, apologize and cancel the meeting. But when I opened her WeChat business card, I saw 4 big characters on her profile picture. Gold medal matchmaker. The first post in the circle of friends. The 55th couple I have brought together. There is nothing I cannot bring together. Deposit $99.99. Face-to-face or remote guidance is available. Without hesitation, I added her as a friend and transferred 10,000 yuan to her. Daisy, could you please have dinner with me tomorrow night? 11. After Marcus left, Arthur locked himself in his room. It's not that he doesn't like Marcus, on the contrary. He likes him so much that he can't help himself. He was just a little bit away from letting himself go without caring about anything. But the stinging pain at the corner of his mouth brought him back to reality. He hardened his heart and drove Marcus away. But when Marcus really left, he felt like he was about to be torn in two by the contradiction. He shouted, "Catch him up, lock him up, and make sure he can't move a step." At the same time, he said calmly, "Calm down. You don't want to see Marcus hate you in the end. This feeling is really painful and crazy. No one knows better than Arthur what kind of paranoid and crazy person is hidden under his gentle and polite appearance. He has had a strong possessiveness of his things since he was a child, no matter if it was a candy or something else. Some of them he would rather destroy than let others take them away. Once he rescued an injured bird, and he loved it so much that he put it in a cage despite everyone's dissuasion. But one day he found that the bird had been hit to death. He was at a loss as to what to do when he heard his mother's cold words. "You are just like your damned father, cruel and selfish." His father was a heinous rapist who died as a retribution, and he himself was also a product of sin. Arthur froze. From then on, he learned to pretend and hid all his care and love. As long as you don't care about anything, you won't want to possess or destroy it. So in everyone's eyes, he is always Arthur, who is polite and gentle to everyone and has no interest in anything. But this mask was shattered by Marcus. Marcus always managed to get his attention easily and tear down the high walls he had built. Arthur felt very despicable. On the one hand, he didn't want Marcus to like him, but on the other hand, he couldn't help wanting Marcus to be closer to him. In fact, he knew that Clara was texting Marcus during the meal, and he was far from drunk. He just wanted to take this opportunity to stay with Marcus for a while. But this brief moment of secret enjoyment almost caused him to fall into the abyss from the spider web he had been walking on for so long. Marcus should have a normal life and not be dominated and entangled by a sick person like me. As he thought this, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath very slowly. But he had an inexplicable premonition that the spider silk was about to break. 12. Is your method reliable? I'm a little panicked. I finished my 5th cup of tea and my legs started shaking with nervousness. The girl with white hair and wearing a JK uniform opposite me looked at me with contempt. Can you be more motivated? According to what you said, such an awkward person needs to be encouraged. Haven't you heard that you will only appreciate something after you lose it? I was looking at the blind date post that I had posted 15 minutes ago and stuttering. My dear sister, you really won't let me kill him. What if he thinks I'm really in love with someone else? Wouldn't I die unjustly? As soon as I finished speaking, Daisy kicked me rudely. I've seen this kind of people before. They act politely and pretend to be unfamiliar with you, but they want to skin you alive and eat you alive. Besides, didn't you say that he kissed you when he was drunk? Isn't that obvious? I murmured quietly. What if he's just very drunk and going crazy? Tisk, let me ask you, would you kiss a pig when you're drunk? I shook my head wildly. That's it. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. It'll only take half an hour at most. Just wait. Daisy relaxed back in her chair, playing with her phone. But I was becoming more and more uneasy. A few minutes later, a shadow appeared beside me, and it felt chilly. When I looked up, I was faced with Arthur's gloomy face, like a demon. Fear. If I hadn't been sitting, I would have kneeled down and admitted my mistake on the spot. But Daisy was enjoying the fun. She shyly covered half of her face and pinched her throat, completely ignoring my warning eyes. Marcus, I think you're a nice, caring person. How about we schedule our wedding for next May? Are 2 babies enough? My ancestors don't have a wedding, just go to my grave. No, I didn't. My words were interrupted violently by Arthur. He lifted me up by the back of my neck, pulled me behind him by my sleeves, and said to Daisy kindly, I'm sorry, you two are not suitable. I stared at his back in a daze. Arthur exuded coldness. Without saying another word, he grabbed my wrist and walked out. Before I was dragged away, I saw Daisy waved and winked at me. 13. Arthur was angry, very angry, although he didn't yell at me or scold me, and kept silent with a sullen face. This was even more terrifying. What is this called? Oh, the calm before the storm. I curled myself up into a ball in the passenger seat, trying my best to reduce my presence. I will definitely give a bad review in Daisy's comment section tomorrow. The car drove to the downstairs of Arthur's house. I hung my head and followed him upstairs obediently. After entering his house, I couldn't stand the torturous atmosphere anymore, so I spoke first. Well, I'm not really. Before he could finish his words, Arthur suddenly jumped up. He grabbed my clothes and threw me on the sofa. Then he pressed his whole body on me and sealed my lips with his teeth. The kiss was so fierce, it felt like a catharsis. The air was completely taken from my lungs and my eyes were shedding natural tears uncontrollably. When I tasted blood in my mouth, Arthur let me go. He wiped the water stains from the corners of my eyes with his fingertips. "Are you so delicate?" Before I could say anything, Arthur sat up, scooped me up and placed me across his lap, straddling me facing him. I don't know where this guy got the strength from. It's like trying to rescue a grown man, like retrieving a chick. Arthur kissed her again. But this time the kiss was gentle, detailed and dense, full of endless affection. But his hands were not gentle at all. They roamed freely around my waist, sparking fire everywhere. The tingling and numbness on my waist once again forced out my tears, and even my soul was trembling. Arthur kissed away my tears, his voice husky. "You said you wanted to sleep with me because you were greedy for my body? Why don't you give it a try? Huh?" He picked me up in this position and threw me onto the bed, then covered me up and kissed me again. How could I possibly refuse such a request? Marcus, finally caught up with someone. I kissed him back passionately, ripped off 2 buttons of his collar, and put my arms around his back, and pushed hard. It didn't move. 14. When I woke up the next day, I saw a naked chest in front of me and fell into deep thought. Last night's development was completely different from what I expected. Although the experience was good and enjoyable. But shouldn't I be the most powerful one? How come I can't even beat a little white rabbit? This is unscientific. Arthur woke up too. He reached out and held me tighter, rubbing my sore lower back. Does it still hurt? Actually, Arthur's bedding is pretty good. But how could I admit that I was satisfied? I raised my head with a grin and lifted his chin. "Baby, your technique is not that good. How about letting your husband do it next time?" Arthur chuckled, grabbing my hand and kissing it on his lips. "It's okay. Just practice more and you'll be fine." It's really the opposite of Tian Gang. But at least the person was obtained. I stayed in Arthur's arms for a while. Then I took out the phone from under the pillow, transferred the balance to Daisy, and gave her a good review. The other side replied immediately. "Paying so late. Did you get screwed?" My hands shook and the phone nearly hit my face. "Bullshit. It's just that my baby is tired and is still sleeping in my arms, and I don't have the heart to wake him up. As long as you are happy." I turned off my phone angrily and found Arthur's eyes still on the black screen, lost in thought. I stretched out my index finger and hooked his chin in a rather rogue manner. "What, now that you know you've been cheated, you regret it? It's too late. I'm telling you, I'm worth a lot of money. If you sleep with me, you'll be responsible for the rest of your life." Arthur paused for a moment, then pulled me to his chest and held me tightly, speaking each word with certainty. "Marcus, if one day you find out that all my gentleness is just an illusion, and that I am actually a paranoid, crazy and cruel person, what will you do?" I nuzzled the crook of his neck. "You are not cruel. If you were cruel, you wouldn't be a doctor." Arthur grabbed my thrashing calf. "Seriously, if one day you get tired of me and want to leave me, I might lock you up so that you can only see me forever and never leave me." I looked up suddenly. Forced love. Arthur's eyes flashed with a deep emotion. I held my chin and thought for a while. "It sounds a bit exciting. Although your prerequisites are impossible, it's not impossible if you want to play. Hang 2 ropes on the head of the bed, buy a pair of handcuffs, and then nothing more happened. Maybe Arthur just couldn't stand my nonsense anymore. So he rolled over and stopped me from speaking. My old waist was damaged for the second time in less than 24 hours. He's a shitty little white rabbit. He is a wolf in rabbit's clothing. 15. After all that commotion, I was really out of energy. Arthur carried me to the bathroom and took a shower. Then he put me on the bed, tucked me into the quilt, and held me in his arms and talked to me. I successfully took a nap. When I woke up again, Arthur was busy making lunch. The meat porridge on the table had an enticing aroma. At this moment, I feel extremely satisfied. No wonder some men always dream of keeping a beautiful woman in a golden house. They would be willing to die if they could keep such a person at home. I took the bowls and chopsticks for both of us and sat on a stool waiting for the last dish to be served. Arthur's cooking skills are very good. With just a few simple dishes, I could taste the flavor of a full banquet. TSK, how can there be such a perfect person in the world, with no flaws in any aspect? Arthur, come home with me for the new year. I said this casually. Arthur paused, looking up at me without saying anything. He had already told me about his family situation in the morning. I never knew that the person I hold dear to my heart has been through so many things and his parents are no longer with us. He had been alone for so long and it was really lonely. On a reunion day like this, I will never leave him alone again. Am I not okay? Oh, are you scared? Don't be nervous, Dr. Arthur. An ugly bride has to meet her parents-in-law. Bah, you are not ugly at all. You are so handsome that I am dying. If you don't want to, then I will stay here and spend the new year with you. Arthur. After much persuasion from me, Arthur reluctantly agreed. After resting for a while, he went to the hospital for his shift. I walked around his house to see if there was anything I wanted to buy. Arthur's house is just like everyone else's, neat and clean, totally unlike my 180 square meter doghouse. However, this location is still a bit far from his hospital, making it inconvenient for him to commute to get off work. I have to find a time to buy the apartment in Lu Tingxian and put Arthur's name on it as a betrothal gift. After I finished thinking, I collapsed on the sofa like a pile of mud, put my feet on the coffee table, and made a phone call. Hello? Mom. I'm bringing someone home for the new year. Ask Aunt Lu to prepare some more food. Who else could it be? Of course, it's your daughter-in-law. That's what I told you last time, Arthur. Oh yes, that's right. Doctor, career writer. By the way, please help me persuade my dad. He's such an old-fashioned guy. Don't let my efforts go to waste. I spent my life chasing him. What does he like to eat? He likes seafood porridge. I'll ask him about other nights. Yeah, that's it. I'm hanging up now. I happily threw my phone on the sofa and imagined the wonderful life in the future. 16. When Arthur was about to get off work, I went to the hospital again. Seeing Clara taking a rest after finishing her work, I walked over proudly. Clara, I have good news for you. Clara rested her head on her elbows, not even raising her eyes. Have you finally decided to give up on Dr. Arthur? I sighed and leaned against the wall with my arms folded. Look at what you are saying. Am I that kind of person? Of course I have already got your Dr. Arthur. Clara raised her hand to touch my forehead, but I blocked her hand. You have a fever? Are you crazy? Why are you talking nonsense in broad daylight? I flipped my hair dramatically. I, your brother, don't smoke, don't drink, don't snore when I sleep. I'm handsome and have a little money, and I don't have any other problems except that I'm a bit cheap. With these conditions, I'm definitely number one on the mate selection list. Of course, your Dr. Arthur can't resist my extreme charm, so he can only submit to me. Clara rolled her eyes so loudly that I almost thought she was going to flip herself over. Go ahead and brag. You didn't succeed in getting such a good opportunity last time. This shows that Dr. Arthur, this flower of the mountain, belongs to the masses. Now, Dr. Arthur is off duty. Call him dear. Do you think he will respond to you? Yo, that's a request. I'd feel embarrassed if I didn't show off. I waved to Arthur, who was walking over. Baby, here. Your husband is here to take you home. To everyone's surprise except me, Arthur actually came over, took my hand, and spoke gently. Why are you here? Why don't you get some sleep? I told you I'd pick you up from get off work in the evening. Arthur pulled me to his side, nodded to the sisters at the nurse's station, took my hand and walked out. The sisters opened their mouths into O shapes in disbelief. Clara even silently exclaimed, "Fuck." I held my head high with pride. So cool. 17. Since we had a real relationship, I abandoned my doghouse and moved in with Arthur. I always keep my word and pick him up from get off work every night, but when it comes to making breakfast, I really have no ability to do it. If you are kept awake until midnight, you will not be able to get up in the morning, especially when your partner has to go to bed early. Fortunately, although Arthur is not a human being at night, he acts like a human being in the morning. He even makes breakfast for me before leaving. I slept in peacefully until I was woken up by hunger, then went to the kitchen to get some porridge and turned on my computer to deal with the work emails that were lying in my mailbox waiting to be visited. I was living a very comfortable life, but Arthur was visibly getting nervous. Because Ms. Lucy can't wait until the Chinese New Year and wants to see her daughter-in-law tomorrow on New Year's Eve. When I caught a glimpse of Arthur staring at the book for the third time while resting my head on his legs, I held back my laughter, pulled the book out seriously, and bit his mouth with my upper body raised. "What's wrong, my beautiful lady? You've almost made a hole in this book with your eyes. Why are you staring blankly?" Arthur stroked my lips with his fingertips and hesitated for a moment. "Is it inappropriate for you to bring me to meet your parents like this? Shouldn't you give them some time to react?" I grabbed the back of his hand and nibbled on it several times. "Why are you still reacting? I reported this matter to the country 800 years ago. You wouldn't just take advantage of me and abandon me." "Arthur, don't worry, it's just a meal. My mom likes you very much. I'm not lying. Our Jiang family's emperor, Ms. Lucy, has a big hobby of reading some women's literature with her electronic products. The rich knowledge in her head enables her to have no generation gap with any young girl. So when I came out to her fearlessly, she was not angry. Instead, her eyes lit up and she excitedly asked me 3 soul-searching questions. Am I handsome? Do I have abs? Are you on top or on the bottom? I didn't even use the keyboard, durian, or feather duster I had prepared. So, after knowing that I had kidnapped the girl, he swore that he had given my father a serious lesson and that I would definitely not do anything bad, and he said he would come and see her in advance. I reached out my hand under Arthur's clothes and touched his abdominal muscles in a very rascally manner. "Well, it feels really good, no wonder women all want it." I laughed obscenely. Arthur couldn't stand it anymore, so he pulled me up, pinched the back of my neck and gave me a long, wet kiss. 17. It turns out that Ms. Lucy doesn't care at all whether her daughter-in-law is a boy or a girl, as long as she is good-looking. As soon as she saw Arthur, she was all smiles and extremely enthusiastic. She pulled him aside to ask him all kinds of questions and let him choose any luxury watches and cars. Arthur had probably never been treated so warmly by his elders before, and he felt a little overwhelmed and embarrassed, unable to cope with the situation. Under the absolute authority of my father at home, I dared not speak out. Whenever he tried to provoke me, my mother would freeze him back with a glare. We had a very enjoyable meal, at least my mom and I were happy. Before leaving, she put my hands together with Arthur's and clapped them 3 times. I never ask for a large family. I just hope my children can find someone who is sincere and willing to spend their lives with them, and live happily and peacefully. I groaned and hooked my arm around Arthur's shoulders. "Mom, don't worry. Arthur is fascinated by your son. I am sincere to him as well. I promise he will be fine. You should deal with that one first." I pointed at my dad, who was still playing finger-guessing with his left hand on the table. He was mumbling, "Hey, Arthur, you lost. I'm your older brother and I've been around a lot. How could I be beaten by you?" My mother stamped her feet and said, "What a disgrace." Arthur, I, and the driver worked together to carry my drunk father to the car, and then watched them leave safely. Arthur was driving, so he wasn't drinking. When we got home, it was less than half an hour before the new year. Arthur helped me, who was half drunk, to the sofa and put a pillow behind my waist. "How do you feel? Are you dizzy?" I smiled foolishly at him, pulled him down with force, then turned over and sat on him with my head very close to him. "Dr. Arthur, now that you've met my parents, you're mine from now on. When filling out your information in the hospital system, you need to indicate you're married. Okay." Arthur gently stroked the side of my face with his fingers, smiled faintly, and nodded as I said. I kissed him fiercely and aggressively, then stumbled to my feet, pulled out a file bag from the coffee table cabinet, and threw it at him. "Well, I'm not going to get anything for nothing. Here's the gift for you." Arthur pulled out a property certificate and his long eyelashes trembled. "Remember what I said? If you agree to me, I will buy a house in Green Court. Arthur looked at me, his eyes were dark and very attractive. That's not what I want. You are enough for me. I hugged his neck and laughed. I know, but you need a wedding room to marry a wife. You can sleep an extra half hour in the morning. If you are used to waking up on time, you can use this half hour to do other things. I basically said this in his ear while I was lying down, my voice getting softer and softer, and after I was done I blew into his ear. Arthur's ears turned red as expected. I rested my head on his shoulder and scratched his Adam's apple. Hey, honey. My mom asked what else you like to eat, so she can prepare some for the new year. You. What? Eat you. Oh my. I didn't expect that. Dr. Arthur looks well dressed on the surface, but he is actually a cruel and ruthless person. Later, all the noises of playing were broken in the throats, and as the clock struck midnight, brilliant fireworks exploded in the sky. A group of people downstairs shouted Happy New Year in unison, and lively blessings were passed on. The old is gone and the new year has arrived.